Good evening. I call the special meeting of the Wilson School Board for Monday, November 14th to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Dr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Martin? Here. Mr. McCray?
Here.
Mr. Greeny?
Here.
Mr. Schroeder? I'm sorry, Mr. Snyder?
Here.
Mrs. Cocker?
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the pledge to the flag. Thank you for all who are in attendance this evening and everyone watching from home. We have one item on the agenda tonight, the resolution to censure and request the resignation of our fellow school board member, Mr. Mike Martin. Mr. Martin has requested to read a statement before we hear public participation on this agenda item. Mr. Martin?
Yes, thank you, Board President. I want to thank the board for the opportunity to address the community tonight before public comment. I want to start by saying that when I spoke those words last Monday night, I didn't understand the pain and hurt that would cause. Although my intention was to further a conversation about student behavior, I realized that my timing and approach was wrong and caused the community to be hurt. I take full responsibility for that and the pain that I have caused you. People that know me can tell you that I'm not a racist person. I've done more to help people of color over the last 40 years than most people probably realize or understand, and I'm proud of those accomplishments. That doesn't make it right, but I'm not a racist, never have been, never will, and I apologized in the media several times. Apologizing is easy, it's just words. For me, it's something that I say without sincerity. It comes from my heart, because when I speak and apologize, I do mean it from the heart. Once again, please accept my sincere apology for any pain that I've caused to the students, parents, and community. To the students not here tonight, I have offered administration to meet with you in a school setting to listen to your comments and questions. I hope that this would be of interest to you, but I also know this would take time to plan by the administrators, and it doesn't happen overnight. Over the next several weeks, I'll be reflecting on some of the comments made in emails about the need for sensitivity training, continuing the board, as well as meeting with specific groups. To my friends, neighbors, and associates, and my family, you're also due my apology. They know I'm not a racist, but have been drawn into this discussion. To have a person cry to me that I've caused pain is a horrific event. Others offered prayers to God and asked for forgiveness and keep me safe. I prayed to stop the hurt. Many offered emotional support through calls and emails, while others came to the house. I ask you to please accept my apology. Once again, thank the board for this opportunity sincerely.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Before Mr. Moravich reads through our standard rules for public participation, I would like to set some expectations in order to keep the disruptions to a minimum. First, I would remind everyone to silence their cell phones. We also reminded the board, just in case. If you need to leave the auditorium to use the bathroom or for any other reason, please do so when I'm calling next names to the podium to reduce disruptions. Also, as always, please no clapping, booing, or discussion. Please be respectful of speakers, even if you do not agree with their comments. Everyone has 3 minutes of uninterrupted contribution, and we will remove any individual that is disruptive to this process. I will call 3 names at a time. Please form a line at the podium, as we have a large list of names that wish to speak. After public participation, the board will be given an opportunity to share their thoughts, followed by the vote on the resolution. I understand that this is an emotionally charged situation, and I just ask each speaker to do their best to present their comments in a respectful and responsible way. Mr. Moravich?
Rules of public participation for school board meetings pursuant to the Sunshine Law, Robert's Rules, and board policy. The following are the rules of public participation. Individuals attending this meeting are expected to conduct themselves in a responsible and respectful manner that does not disrupt the meeting. Public comment is not question and answer, but is instead an opportunity to offer comment on matters that are or may come before the board. In particular, personnel or student matters may not be commented on by the board, even if employer or parent is asking the question. As it relates to questions, the superintendent may assign an administrator to speak directly to the speaker afterwards. The board respectfully requests that you direct your comments to the board as a whole, as it is the board that will need to vote on this future matter. Calling, clapping out, or cheering is not permitted, nor conversations in the audience. Individuals may not approach the board tables. Individuals shall make their comments from the lectern. Comments shall be 3 minutes, and I give a 1-minute warning. Any person making threats of violence may be removed from the meeting or may be cited by local police. The above expectations are outlined in Board Policy 903, which is embedded in Board Docs on the district's website.
Thank you, Mr. Maravich. Our first three are, and I apologize for names, Ingrid Powers, Sophia Lyon, and Andrea Thomas.
Partner. My name is Ingrid. My husband and I have 3 biracial children, 2 of which are students at Spring Ridge Elementary. We love our school and the teachers at the school. Our oldest son has been being bullied since kindergarten. It started with kids on the playground at lunch, pushing him to the ground, telling him to stay there since he looked like dirt. We reported to the teachers, lunch aides, and etc., and nothing was done. Finally, in 1st grade, our son decided to push one of these children back, and we got a call home telling us that he was going to be watched. I lost it, said absolutely not. Our son was not being watched for 2 years while he was being harassed, and now that he stood up for himself, he was going to be watched. Then a few weeks later, my son told my husband and I during dinner that he had to talk to a police officer at school. We thought he was lying. He had to be lying. There was no way a child would be spoken to at the age of 7 by a police officer without their parents being involved. I called the school the following morning, and sure enough, they said he was taken to the office from art class for drawing a Nerf gun and spoke to by the principal and a police officer. After a lot of anger, we explained to our son that it was wrong for anyone to speak to him without us being present, but we needed to move on from it. It didn't seem to end. After that incident, he had a teacher allow all of his classmates to feel his hair because they were curious what it felt like. He came home crying, telling us to shave his head. Thankfully, we moved to another school in the district. In all of those examples, nothing was done by police, teachers, administration, and I started to see a pattern. I kept allowing events to happen and say to be the bigger person, but nothing was being done. Then I heard last week's board meeting and all these feelings arised. I thought, no, I have been being the better person and telling my child to be the better person instead of causing a scene or causing others to feel uncomfortable. And what good has it done? It isn't. It is allowing the issues to disappear and nothing but hurt and hate to grow from it. So I ask of you, Mr. Martin, and I do not want you to resign for your comments. The truth is, if you go away, there's going to be someone else like you. What I want to change, I would like to ask you to spend 2 weeks with members in our community at the high school in these groups. Spend 2 weeks with the Black community and the LGBTQ community. Get to know these groups that you are so judgmental of. Then I ask anyone who stands with Mr. Martin, why are you so scared of educational or support of certain groups? Why would factual history of one's race or identity be so scary for you? I am white of Swedish descent, and the past 15 years with my husband has shown me firsthand things him and his family has had to go through. It showed me how naive and ignorant I was. We have had horrible things happen to us in public for being together, and not once during those years did I sit and think, man, I feel bad for being white. No, I felt sorry that this community still isn't free, that judgment still happens if this community grows and does positive things. We need to be the change, stop trying to push everybody back, stop telling people how they should feel and shouldn't feel, stop making Black people the target for all of our uncomfortableness with change, and stop putting labels on what your ideal boy, girl, or person should identify as. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my My name is Sophia Arana Lyon, and I would like to speak on behalf of the Wilson community about Mr. Martin's words from last Monday's board meeting and emphasize just how demeaning and hurtful his racist and transphobic remarks were. As a member of the community on the school board, all of you are tasked with incredible responsibility to uphold the views and beliefs of the Wilson School District, and consider that before speaking, especially when speaking on behalf of the entire community on incredibly sensitive topics. Mr. Martin, as a cisgender, heterosexual white man, it is never your place to speak about or on behalf of those communities, regardless of if you're reading an article written by a black man, or if you think that you're speaking with their best interest in mind. Because from an outside perspective, it certainly didn't seem as though you truly thought about the impact that those racist remarks would have on members of the community that you were speaking about. Being transphobic and racist during a public school board meeting is unacceptable and is not something that the community is able to look past. I am a member of the LGBTQ community myself and have questioned my gender identity in the past. And by suggesting that young boys wearing dresses is disgusting, you are directly repressing transgender youth's identities within the school district. The National Library of Medicine finds that children become consciously aware between 12 to 15 months of age. At 2 years old, a child can certainly decide whether they want to wear a dress or not. And by insisting that it is wrong, you are merely bringing your own repressive views on gender identity into the conversation. This is inarguably inappropriate. Remarks such as yours in a public setting hold power and cause harm. Though I am not black myself, I am Latina, and I have experienced prejudice and oppression towards my own ethnic group. Though I will never understand the full extent of the impact that your words had on black families across the district, I can sympathize with their pain and want to emphasize just how disrespectful it was of you to bring them into a conversation without their consent. Not only were your words insensitive, but they were blatantly and inherently racist, despite the intention. It is within your best interest to resign from your position on the Wilson School Board to prevent any further harm to the marginalized communities that you attacked last week. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Thomas. I am a resident of Wilson. I have 2 children in the district. One is at the high school, very much always being involved, and I have one daughter in the middle school. Now, it is not the thing I wanted to do tonight, but it's the thing I had to do tonight. Hence the reason my son came home and I had to do another round of explaining as a black woman to her child. I am tired. I want my son and my daughter to have the same opportunity, and I believe that this district has done that. However, Mr. Martin, I'm not letting you off the hook, because the fact that you read an article, you took time to research it, read it, and then decided that it fits in your perspective and your thought process, and brought it that said, I'm going to publicly read it, says a lot. And then, you know what hurt? It was that you decided to deflect blame by saying that this was written by a black man. All right? Now, I just looked this up. Wilson School District demographic is 60.9% white, 7.5% black, 22.6% Latino students, 0.3 American Indian, 4.8 Asian and Pacific Islanders. And the fact that you took up just one group to say that they're not accountable and they're part of the problem with discipline said a lot. It said a lot. A group that is less than 10%.
1 minute.
Is a lot. But then you went back again, you kind of like said all the stereotypes loudly, and then you had the nerve to say afterwards, when not everybody had this outcry, was to say, I'm not racist, I don't have a racist bone in my body. Number one thing a racist says. Secondly, most disrespectfully, is where you're like, I need to speak to, I want to meet with a black family so they can help me fix this. No. That was your responsibility. All right? Do not come here and say you're sorry, because from reading that article, you were not even supposed to bring it here. I can't think that you can make decisions for my black family or any other black family here with good intentions, based on what you said. And you said that you didn't even think it was racist. Here's an issue. Your perspective aligns here. Maybe you need to self-reflect. But I would like for you to resign. You have nothing to offer.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Alexis Price Moyer, Rachel Schultz, and Jessica Hernandez.
Good evening, Dr. Trickett, Wilson Administration, and members of the school board. My name is Alexis Price Moyer, and I'm a concerned member of the Wilson School District community. As a Wilson High School alumna, a disabled United States Air Force veteran, a Drexel medical student that continues to serve this area, and above all, as a black woman, I vehemently condemn the hateful and extremely racist rhetoric that Mr. Martin spoke at the November 7th school board meeting. I, like many others in the community, was appalled and disgusted to hear that a population of people, my people, were placed within the confines of a discriminatory box, slapped with grossly misleading and inappropriate labels that one should never use. Let me be one of many to remind the board, and Mr. Martin in particular, that this equally gifted and talented population of people make up a significant percentage of the school district's student demographic. Mr. Martin, the excerpt that you seemingly searched for and found festering on a no-name blog was not only concerning in the frankness of the words written, but the blatant assumptions you were alluding to as you read them as well. I'm here to inform you that the logic you were looking for in the respectable article, as you called it, cannot be found in such an illogical way of thinking. Just as you did in your poor attempt in justifying your thought process on November 7th, I'd like to highlight one of the illogical and dangerous quotes from the articles you read. And I quote, "What about the black people who are not slaves nor victims of police brutality, nor direct victims of racism and oppression?" And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Mr. Martin, but there is not a single African American on this earth that has not been subjected to systemic racism and oppression, the dark phenomena that you, sir, continue to perpetuate. In promoting discrimination, you promote predisposed attitudes concerning an entire population of people, and in turn, manifest feelings of mistrust, inadequacy, and fear within the group that you target. I'm here to promise you that even if you do not will it, these students will continue to rise and flourish. And as if your excerpt wasn't absurdly ignorant enough, I, like many others, am perplexed in your request for change in which the school handles its so-called disciplinary issues brought on by the black students you targeted. Without any constructive ideas, and to my horror, you affirm this position by saying there was no, and I quote, "magic bullet," end quote, in correcting the issue you brought forth. And with that I say, sir, that your language is extremely dangerous and is, in my opinion, grounds for dismissal as a leader of this community. In only supporting some, you are not a leader of all. Words matter. Hate and discrimination based on another's identity, appearance, and religious beliefs are not up for debate and has no place in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Rachel Schultz. I'm a mother of a 6th grader and a 2020 graduate of and I'm an elementary librarian within our district. Mr. Martin, I've listened to your end of meeting rants about our special education students, our LGBTQ students and their families, and our African American students for months. You always like to insist each time that you aren't a racist, that you don't have a problem with these various groups within our community. But listening to you speak meeting after meeting shows a very different view. I'd like to read you a few entries from a book written for elementary students that one you coincidentally disagreed with having within our elementary libraries. But I hope that maybe you will consider actually learning from it and maybe actually read something that you could learn from, rather than the literature that you find educational. It's a book that all of us at this point need to read because of the hate that you've spewed meeting after meeting after meeting. It's stamped for kids about racism, anti-racism, and you. There's serious definitions about segregationist, assimilationist, and anti-racist. I'm going to give you mine, the authors. Segregationists are haters, real haters, people who hate you for not being like them. Assimilationists are people who like you only if you act like them. I question, Mr. Martin, which one are you? And then there are anti-racists. They love you because you are you. These aren't just words that'll be used throughout this book to describe people. And they're not just words that we should use in our community. They're words that we should be living by. We should all be anti-racist within the Wilson School District, especially when you are a leader. Another expert. Black people were encouraged not to be themselves, but to change in order to fit into white people's ideas of what it means to be civilized and human. This is being racist. Because what these abolitionists were really saying is that Black people need to make themselves small, unthreatening, quiet, and meek, and to be followers, just to be left alone by white people. This is the basis of assimilationist thoughts, that Black people should just behave in ways that make white people comfortable with their existence. Is this what you're asking? Is that what you were asking in that speech you gave last week? Because I question it. Many of us question it. Do you see how racist ideas today are tied to racist ideas of the past? The phrase is, go back to where you came from, is something that is said to Black and brown people today, and it connects to go back to ideas of the past. Now you can trace the origins back to Thomas Jefferson. By the way, just imagine what Native Americans and Black people might have wished about their white oppressors. Can we send white people back to Europe? I have copies of this. I will gladly give you one of Whitfield's copies because I really think you need to read and understand and learn from a quality book and not just.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Jessica Hernandez. I'm a parent of 2 Wilson High School students and also a Wilson grad. As someone who had the privilege to be on the music board for 4 years, I've always taken the opportunity to listen, understand, and learn from all students, parents, and staff. Being on a board comes great responsibility of being inclusive to all involved to make everyone feel welcome, especially when it comes to students and their parents being involved. What I've witnessed in the last 2 years watching the board meetings is the ignorance of one board member not only not learning, but not growing with a community so vast. At this point, I've heard derogatory remarks with special education students, LGBTQ students, and now racially driven comments by one board member that I cannot stay quiet any longer. This board member has hurt so many of the community I hold so dear with words of hate instead of being a leader. The board member stated it should be a parental choice on some topics, but only those topics you agree with. In one meeting, you stated a mother should go to jail dressing their boy like a girl, that special education is not worth the money on repeated occasion. In the last meeting, I truly have no words of why this board member thought that was an article to bring and speak it out loud in front of a board is beyond me. As a parent of a child with autism, a parent of an LGBTQ young adult, and my family being a mixed family, you have failed me, my family, and this community to understand the differences of human beings. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Daniel Buckley, Justin Raffoff, and Makai Cooper.
Good evening. My name is Dan Buckley, and this is my 17th year as an hourly teacher at Whitfield. I'm also the proud parent of 2 former Wilson students. On this very date in 1960, a 6-year-old girl named Ruby Bridges became the first black student to attend her elementary school in New Orleans. Despite the hateful speech and threats of violence that surrounded this event, Ruby showed extraordinary courage as she literally and figuratively took steps to change the course of history in our country and in our schools. We must continue to honor this courage and these steps as we move forward today. I'm saddened to come before you this evening to address remarks made by Mr. Martin at recent meetings, but I feel that I have no choice. The past almost 3 years have been unlike anything we have ever experienced on a societal level, and certainly on an educational level. Educators and students continue to grapple with challenges we never could have anticipated. The stress level is high for all. The mental health challenges are real. The academic deficits will likely continue to be with us for some time. Things are not perfect, but as we are a school district comprised of human adults and children, we are destined to be an imperfect entity. However, that cannot and should not alter the path we strive to follow. All of us, board members, educators, parents, all members of the Wilson community, must raise our kids up, not tear them down. All of us must seek to unite, not divide. All of us must respect others, listen to, and attempt to understand their stories. Certainly there are differences that exist in our school community. There are differences in race, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, etc. These differences should not serve to separate us. Rather, they should be celebrated and seen as a path toward greater understanding.
1 minute.
All of us need to be pulling in the same direction, working toward a common goal. Yes, we want our students to achieve academically, but we also want them to achieve something of greater value. When they leave our schools, we want them to be a force for good in our community. Our attitudes, our words, and our actions must strive to serve this goal. There is no place for intolerance and division if we truly want what is best for our kids. Sadly, I feel that Mr. Martin's recent comments have served to sow seeds of disunity and disrespect. If Mr. Martin sincerely does not see or understand the harm he has done to our school community, I feel sorry for him. I have no reason to doubt that he ran for a seat on this board and has worked long hours in an effort to make the Wilson School District the best it can be. However, his recent words and actions have done serious, possibly irreparable damage to many in our community. The views he has espoused are not only mean-spirited and wrong, they are potentially very dangerous. I ask that he put his own pride and ego aside and do the right thing for this district and its students, so that all may begin to heal from the hurt he has caused. I ask that he resign his seat from the school board immediately. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. We, as teachers of Wilson High School, value each and every child in our building and do not support discrimination against any child based on race, ethnicity, religion, gender, or orientation. We want the parents and students to know we genuinely care and are here to support you. You are the reason we are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
A hurtful reality in our community. To start this, I would like to address the situation that took place on November 7th, 2022 at the Wilson School District Board meeting regarding Board Representative Mr. Mike Martin. I believe, and 1,143 people believe, that what he said in the last board meeting was very uncalled for, and it hurts a lot of people in our community when we are all supposed to be one. The remarks he made towards the LGBTQ community in the middle of the meeting and at a former meeting were also wrong. But the biggest part everybody was shocked drastically about was the article one board member decided was a good idea to read in front of students, staff, and community members. Let me remind you that our school is a very highly populated, growing community which has many different cultures and races, and the African American community is one of the largest growing populations in the school district. We all come to school every day because we know this is supposed to be a place of non-judgment and a safe place for everybody. But the words Mr. Martin had to say were uncalled for. Not only did it feel like an attack on me, it felt like an attack on everybody in this African American in the school district. I'm not going to stand up here and say I'm not one of the kids who has my headphones in blasting music, because I am. And I know a bunch of kids in the school who also do it. I also can't say my pants don't hang down low sometimes, because yes, they do, which, by the way, is in accordance. Which, by the way, is in accordance with the dress code in our student handbook. As visible, waistbands are not a dress code violation, but for someone to say that asking a black person, or in the words used at the board meeting, a young thug, to pull up his pants or to turn down his music will result in an overreaction is an unfair generalization and a stereotype. Everything you said leading up to this part you were discussing was gut-wrenching, and when I had to sit in school and hear those words come out of your mouth while also looking at some of my peers that are also African American, I could see how they were hurt and felt disrespected beyond belief. I had to walk around school the whole day and think about everything you said. I went in my classrooms and heard everyone talking about how you were disrespectful and obnoxious.
1 minute.
The article you read said a very harmful stereotype on kids in the school. Many of my fellow classmates and I at the Wilson High School believe you do not deserve a spot on the Wilson School District Board. I know that no matter what I write about will probably not change everything completely, but it is my voice and it has feelings of many behind it. I would also like to share a petition to the school board that was made by Cameron Jones, who is also here today, and would like to speak on the situation. Thank you for listening to my words and considering my feelings of many high school students.
Thank you for your comments. Next three are Cam Jones, Giovanna Jacobs, and Karen Moreland.
First, I would like to read the petition that was passed around school today. It says, "We, the community of Wilson, do not believe that Mr. Martin's remarks represent our students of our school. His remarks were divisible and the opposite of what we are trying to accomplish at Wilson. The Wilson community is hurt and deeply concerned about who is supposed to be leading us. Due to his history of inappropriate remarks, his inability to appropriately represent the constituents of the community and the students of our school. We respectfully request that Mr. Martin resign from the board member position effective immediately." And we had 1,143 signatures on that petition. I would also like to speak for one of the teachers who is now a resident who can't speak today. I view my students as humans first, and over the past week they have come to me in pain. One student approached me in tears, saying she felt dehumanized and invalidated. Another student was so frustrated you could see his body nearly vibrating with a mixture of pain and outrage. Our students are hurting, and as to both a teacher and all above a mama bear, it is hard to look them in the eyes and see the pain when it is not deserved, and it is not deserved. As an English teacher, I want to call upon my literary hero, a human legend, author, poet, and activist, Maya Angelou, and I feel she understands the power of words like no other. Her words that have stuck with me throughout my life. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. This is what's happening in our district right now. People are feeling pain, people are feeling anger, and people are feeling no intensely that you can no longer keep it to themselves, and it doesn't matter what the intention was. We need to do better. You, our students, deserve nothing less. You deserve to feel heard, you deserve to feel validated, you deserve compassion and empathy. You deserve to have a school where you feel safe and loved. If you want to see who our students really are, just take a look around. With such intense feeling, the whole situation could have gone very bad, but our students, the beautiful souls that I have the honor of working with day in and day out, you choose to unite, you choose to handle the situation with your heads held high. I have one other quote from Maya Angelou I'd like to share today because this is what I believe represents Wilson and our students.
1 minute.
Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope. That is what I have seen from you. Hope. Hope that hatred will never win. Hope that your voices will be heard. Hope for a future where we are all treated with love and respect. Hope that we can come together and make this world a better place, a more welcoming, loving place. It is you that makes me love my job so damn much, and I couldn't be prouder of all of you for standing up for what you believe in, doing it the right way, and supporting each other. This is love. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, I'm Giovanna, a junior at Wilson High School. After the events of the last board meeting, we were utterly shocked and highly offended. Feelings that they were not being represented by the entirety of the students. The article that was read by the school board member body feel as though they were broken. Board member's speech made me feel isolated. I felt like my entire school board was not behind me, my friends, and our entire student body. The words that were spoken tore students down and impacted them in a negative light. Words are the single most powerful force on earth. The negative impact of the words spoken made students feel attacked and unwanted in our school. School is supposed to be a place where students can learn and engage with each other, not a place where people are afraid to be who they are. The students of our school do not feel as if we were represented at the school board meetings. I have had nothing but good experiences with students of all backgrounds, including people of all races, genders, sexualities, religions, and people who have disabilities. We, the students, don't see ourselves by race, color, creed, or any other descriptor. We see ourselves as students, colleagues, and friends who at times will disagree, but will see things in the same light. We are defined by what makes us unique, but also brought together through those differences. A quote from Ola Joseph: "Diversity is not about how we differ. Diversity is about embracing one another's uniqueness." What one individual said tore away the connective tissue of our school community that we have built over the years. The words that were said attacked us and made me feel completely powerless. I am taught in my leadership classes that leaders appreciate others for their unique skills and abilities. My JRTC class has taught me a creed of which taught us morals and ethics, which one school board member has broken. What was said and the leadership that was demonstrated is the complete opposite of an ethically responsible leader and laid the foundation for a very toxic and caustic school learning environment. We want our school to have a positive and safe work environment, and that starts with a school board that backs all of our students, no matter who they are. A school board that comes from a place of love, not hate. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Karen Moreland, and I have taught in the Wilson School District for 20 years. We, as teachers of Shiloh Hills Elementary School, value each and every child in our building and do not support discrimination against any child based on race, ethnicity, religion, gender, or orientation. We want the parents and students to know we genuinely care and are here to support you. You are the reason we are here. As I said, I have taught here for 20 years, but I've lived here for almost 40 years and have now been a parent of Wilson School District students for 13 years. To say that the last few years have been difficult as a teacher and as a parent is a major understatement. As many things have worked to divide us as a community, emotions have been high. Conversations at home have come earlier than expected. Friendships have been lost, and a feeling of exhaustion is now just the new norm. However, I stand up here tonight with my 13-year-old son sitting behind me with an overwhelming sense of pride and hope. Pride that we have come together as a community right now in this moment, and that we are showing our students and children what it really means to be a part of this amazing thing called the Wilson School District. There are students here standing together to support one another because it's simply the right and kind thing to do. And we, as your teachers and your parents, oh, we are so proud of you. And now on to my feeling of hope. Hope that because our actions, not just tonight, but every single day, our children and students will have the strength to always fight for each and every person in your world. Because passing on strength to come together and support and love each other should be as teachers, parents, and community members, should be our main goal. And from what I'm seeing tonight, I think it's safe to say that we do not need to hope that this will happen here because it's already happening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Sarah Stump, Kira Hoffman, and Aiden Malagrana.
Good evening. My name is Sarah, and I'm the proud parent of 2 Wilson students. I wish we could give the students a round of applause. The bravery that you've shown tonight is just really amazing. And as a parent, just like Karen said, I'm really proud of you. You should be proud of yourselves. But when my husband and I were looking to buy a home, we chose Wilson as the best option because of the endless opportunities provided for kids here. And we are engaged members of our Wilson community. I've served as a PTO board member and president. We're also engaged members of the business community, and I sit on 2 other boards as well. I will say unequivocally that if anyone on any board I ever served on crossed the basic lines of decency the way that Mr. Martin has, I would have zero tolerance for that board member remaining at the table. And that's the business world, not a board that serves the most important customers, which is our children. If we can't trust you, Mr. Martin, to recognize how harmful, racist, and what a setback your comments were, how can anyone in this community trust your instincts to make difficult decisions behind closed doors on behalf of our children on any other topic? We can't. And I hereby call for your resignation. We need our board members spending time making important decisions to continue to be the exemplary educational institution that it is. We can't waste our valuable time educating a board member on the most basic elements of inclusion, diversity, race, and LGBTQ issues. Our district leadership and teachers have a lot of challenges, a lot. If you want to sit at home and read articles, let me suggest some topics. What do we do about the 1.4 million school-age children in America that are homeless, including in our district? How do we deal with the fact that 45% of LGBTQ youth are seriously contemplating suicide? How are we going to fund and support academic recovery from the pandemic slide? How do we better financially support our teachers that must ask parents to donate book fair books and essentials like tissues and hand sanitizer to maintain basic hygiene in our classrooms? Or take personal days to grade papers because they can't keep up? How do we dispel causes of racial bias that cause inequality, not promote it? These are just a few, and there are so many challenges, and we can't accomplish it if we're wasting time educating you. Mr. Martin, the best way to help us is to resign. No apology is going to fix this situation. Put aside your pride. It's not our job to educate you. It's the board's job to create the best educational environment for our kids. Let us get back to the normal business of doing hard things, solving problems, supporting our teachers, supporting our students, and getting back to work. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, Wilson School Board. Many of you don't know me, so let me introduce myself. My name is Kira Hoffman. I was born and raised in the Wilson School District, and it is something I've always taken pride in. That is until recently. The derogatory words of Mr. Martin have deeply wounded many of my peers and I, so I can no longer be proud of the district I've grown up in. Tonight, I'm speaking on behalf of those that cannot speak up, those that are watching this meeting at home, too threatened by these statements to face the man that spoke them, and those whose life, individuality, and freedom of expression Mr. Martin has so rudely insulted. While I recognize these statements do not reflect that of the entire committee, this member is supposed to represent the district as a whole. So how does that reflect us? The fact of the matter is, Mr. Martin's statements hurt many people, not just in the past meeting, but for years now. For far too long, Mr. Martin has abused his authoritative role by using his position to voice his own thoughts and opinions for his own personal belief and benefit. Mr. Martin read this statement in regards to the African American community, but I believe it applies to Mr. Martin as well. Mr. Martin himself needs to grow up and be held accountable from within and learn how to accept corrections for the better. I will not ask for an apology. At this point, that will no longer suffice. Mr. Martin was given the opportunity to apologize for past statements and threats made, but refused, saying, quote, "I stand by what I said." Now, I know the argument may be made, like the meeting on November 11th, saying that being a very liberal person, you took snippets of things, but you didn't filter the whole thing. I would like to contradict that statement. Political beliefs have nothing to do with such matters. One can have liberal or conservative views and not be wildly offensive towards others. But I want to make this point very clear. This matter has nothing to do with politics. This is solely about the hatred spoken towards the Wilson community. As a student at Wilson, I see many of my peers face discrimination on a daily basis regarding their skin color, religion, gender identity, and even disabilities. For an elected member to further add to this discrimination disgusts me on levels that I find hard to put into words, but I will try.
Since the November 7th meeting, things have not been the same at Wilson, but how would Mr. Martin know this? He hasn't walked the halls to see the students walking with their heads down, sat in a class to hear, why does it even matter anymore? I'm just a thug. Now, what I want to know is what changed between the span of Monday, November 7th, when Mr. Martin refused to apologize for the utterly disgusting article that was read at the meeting, and Thursday, November 10th, in the Reading Eagle article, where he stated, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. If it came across that way, I have to apologize. Was it the fact that someone called out Mr. Martin for his offensive statements? Because I myself would like to know. For sitting down and talking with one Black family about how to fix this issue does not change the horror and pain that was inflicted on every other family in the district affected by Mr. Martin's words. So let's honor the diversity we have here at Wilson because it's 2022. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, everyone. At the beginning of last week, I woke up on Tuesday morning and headed to my internship feeling extremely proud to be a part of the Wilson community. I had the privilege of working with and around the administration as the public relations intern with Mrs. Karen Troutman. Daily, I witness firsthand the direction this school district is going under the leadership of Dr. Trickett. As I arrived at school, that feeling was clouded once I heard the comments made Monday night by Mr. Martin. My name is Ada Melagrana, and I've been a part of this school district my entire life. Over the years, I've seen an outpouring of goodwill spread throughout this community. The discriminatory comments made about race, ethnicity, gender, and sexuality does not and will never represent this community that I have grown so fond of. I could not fathom the discriminatory comments made by Mr. Martin. Although these comments were not specifically directed towards myself and who I am, it still hurts. It hurts because my peers are hurting, my friends are hurting, and our community is hurting. And when something pains a member of our Wilson community, it affects us all. I've had the privilege to meet countless people in this community over the years. My favorite part is getting to know details about my friends, teammates, fellow classmates, teachers, and any community members. Every single one is different and unique, their experiences, backgrounds, and interests. This is what makes this community so great. The diversity should provide curiosity and opportunity for one to learn more about each another. Opportunity is a word, which is why we are here tonight. It's what is so bittersweet about this meeting. The situation is terrible. It's awful, but it provides us with an opportunity for everyone to come together as one. Regardless of what you look like, how much money you make, what job you have, looking around this auditorium today gives me hope, seeing everyone that gathered here, taking this opportunity in front of us to improve our community. The first step is all of you being here today to support our student body in the resistance of the comments made last Monday night. You all here are all the reasons why us students feel empowered to create our own future here at Wilson and going forward in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ilan Ruli Dunadell, Judith Cranes, and Owen Hartraff.
I'm Ilan Ruli Donadell, a member of the student board and a senior at Wilson High School. I am a part of the 8% of African American students that were verbally attacked and targeted last Monday, November 7th. Mr. Martin's false and ignorant statement struck me with anger and frustration. Growing up, I never wanted to be seen as a stereotypical Black girl. I've worked so hard to become an accomplished young Black woman despite all the barriers and obstacles that have been thrown my way because of the color of my skin. Never in a million years did I think I would have to be here fighting for my rights at a school that's supposed to protect and welcome me. When I think of Wilson High School, I think of diversity and community, not discrimination and bigotry. If Mr. Martin doesn't resign from the school board, the problems that we are facing now will continue and future students will have to face the same feelings as many of my peers have, myself included. I have younger siblings and cousins that are students of Wilson School District. I never want them to have to face someone saying such dehumanizing things against them because of the color of their skin tone. In my opinion, if Mr. Martin actually cared about the kids and the community, he would recognize the damage he has done and resign. We are now in the year of 2022. We have no room for racism, transphobia, homophobia, or even attacking disabled children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. I'm Judith Cranus, the mother of 2 Wilson graduates. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that Seth and Rachel say hello, Jay. I am here to represent the Greater Reading Unity Coalition, but before I do that, I would like to thank all the speakers. The personal stories take so much courage to tell, and I know I have been moved by them and I have learned by them. And I'd also like to thank the students because they're bringing forward a critical part of how we think about diversity. They see each other as individuals, not as members of groups, not as members that can be boxed and defined. And that is true of everybody who is different in this country. Each person is an individual. And the only time we can really define a group is at a Wilson sporting event when we are all Bulldogs. Now, 5 years ago, the Greater Reading Unity Coalition was formed due to a rise in anti-Semitic activities and an increase in hate speech, most of it targeted to African Americans and Latinos. Our mission is to promote diversity, compassion, acceptance, and to defeat prejudice of all kinds in Berks County. We are here tonight represented by members of the NAACP, the Jewish Federation, the Islamic Center, the LGBT Center, and Centro Hispano. We are here to stand with the students and the majority of the families in our district who believe that our schools should be beacons of hope where our students learn from each other, grow with each other, love one another, for the diversity and special gifts that each student and each family brings to the district. Incidents like those of recent board meetings, if ignored, can cause us to lose trust in our communities and in each other. Who among us will fill this trust vacuum? Well, our students, for one. They're here, they're organized. And those that believe that hope matters.
1 minute.
Those who understand that real progress is more possible when we all act together. Those who understand why we must push back on forces that seek to divide, that spread fear, and that spew hate speech. Reclaiming hope requires us to show up. Our students show up. We are all here tonight, and we are all agents of hope. Real forces are acting to divide us. We cannot and collectively will not allow this to happen. Students, we hear you. Hate speech has no place in the Wilson School District. The Greater Reading Unity Coalition thanks the board for taking this important step, and we thank the Wilson students for stepping up against hate speech and leading with passion and purpose to bring our community together. We stand with you. We stand with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Owen Hartraft, and I'm a sophomore at Wilson High School. I've been attending the Wilson School District since kindergarten. Wilson is one of the largest and most diverse schools in Berks County. From our prestigious athletics to the array of classes offered and all other activities many students in this district enjoy contributing towards are some of the few factors that make Wilson as great as it is. Students from so many backgrounds come together frequently to be with one another, participate in what they enjoy, and be a part of our ever-growing community. The comments made by our board member, Mr. Martin, are not representative of this district and those attending it. I believe any staff member would reprimand a student the same they would any other and not change their ways of discipline due to a student's race, sex, sexuality, etc. Check the date. The last I checked, it's 2022. But yet here we are having to address people who are unable to accept others due to uncontrollable factors in their lives. I would like to make it known that the words spoken by Mr. Martin have caused a significant amount of harm to this community that will take an outstanding time to heal. These comments have greatly impacted many families and students who currently reside within our community. It's heartbreaking that these students who are attending the Wilson School District to simply learn now have to come to school every day and know that someone who should be one of their biggest supporters said such disgraceful things about them. I am utterly disgusted that I have to stand before this board to bring attention to the actions of a grown man. Those within this community deserve someone who is going to ensure the inclusion of all students. Simply apologizing for the outcome of one's actions and how it came across is not the apology this community is seeking or deserving of. No apology is going to undo what has already been done, but the apologies given thus far certainly won't. Mr. Martin stated that he's sorry that this thing blossomed into what it manifested into. As I look around this auditorium, I do believe that one's comments have blossomed and manifested into something rather extraordinary. The response from our community has shown how we are able to come together as one, no matter our differences. We request that Mr. Martin resign and allow our community to heal. I would like to thank Dr. Trickett, the administration, the board, and anyone else who has stood with and shown support towards the student body and community as a whole during these times. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Janisha Diaz, Christy Schuker, and Kaylee Knott.
Good evening. My name is Janisha Diaz, and I'm a senior here at Wilson and a member of the student board. This is a group of students that all came together from different backgrounds due to Mr. Martin's words. We're here to be a voice for the students, to make sure every student is seen as equals, and to make the school a better place so everyone can feel welcomed and comfortable, no matter their race, religion, sexual orientation, or gender. The comments that Mr. Martin made at the last school board meeting really affected me, many other students, and district teachers as well. I want to thank the teachers and administrators that stood up for us, let us hold meetings in their classrooms, and led us in the right direction as to how to handle the impact of Mr. Martin's words. I respect that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but it doesn't seem fair that someone that sits in a position of authority, a position that is meant to guide our school, can seem to be prejudiced towards so many students, aiming to create division amongst us. I moved to Wilson from Reading during my 8th grade year. When I first moved here, I encountered so many racial slurs I'd never heard before. Prior to moving here, my mother prepared me for the possibilities of being discriminated against due to being a minority, but prayed it would never happen. But it indeed did. Yes, they're just words, but they truly do cut deeper than knives. The title of the blog post read by Mr. Martin was African Americans, Stop Being So Easily Offended. It is clear to me and many people that Mr. Martin knew exactly what he was doing, directing these hurtful words to, as he said, a group of people. Mr. Martin said he was sorry and seemed to take accountability for his decision on reading that blog post. But that does not undo the harm caused to the students he was elected to advocate for. The proper apology for his reading of such inappropriate, derogatory, and dehumanizing language would and should be a resignation letter. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, Wilson School Board. My name is Christy Schuker. I've been a resident of Wilson School District for over 20 years. I have 2 children who are currently enrolled in Wilson schools, one at the high school and one at Southern. Also, I'm in my 16th year of teaching at Spring Ridge Elementary School. Thank you for allowing me to read the following statement on behalf of all of the Spring Ridge teachers. We, as teachers of Spring Ridge Elementary School, value each and every child in our building and do not support discrimination against any child based on disability, race, ethnicity, religion, gender, or orientation. We want the parents and students to know we genuinely care and are here to support you. You are the reason we are here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Kaylee Knott. I am a part of a Wilson student board and go to Wilson High School. Growing up in Wilson, I've never felt out of place or unaccepted. Wilson has always been represented with brilliant ideas and very good people, until recently at the Wilson Board meeting on Monday, November 7, 2022. During this board meeting, a board member said hurtful comments about people of color and left the community in shock, as well as in a prior meeting talking about parents who let their children cross-dress, be who they are, saying things like, and I quote, "You wouldn't want to meet me in a back alley," end quote. These comments overwhelmed me with emotion. I knew something had to be done, so with waves of courage, I started talking about it with fellow students, which created the Wilson Student Board. We worked together, coming up with things like petitions and our social media, and realized we weren't alone. Tons of fellow students have reached out and agreed with us, and stood together as we could spread the word. I never knew students could stand together as one strong family and make such a difference. But against all odds, we did. And we hope to make history for all upcoming generations of students to feel welcome and not alone. And as a future teacher, I really hope that I do not make any student feel even close to what Mr. Martin has made other students feel. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Alea Wise, Allison Spangler, Caroline Clark.
Hi, I'm Alasia Wise, a senior at Wilson High School and a member of the student board. I've been a student in the Wilson School District since first grade. On the first day of school, I remember walking to the classroom, seeing everyone with a lighter complexion than me. I was the only black girl out of 20 other kids. I remember having a thought, why am I the only black child in the class? Yes, I noticed this in first grade, but I was young and couldn't understand it. Reaching middle school for me was an even bigger eye-opener. I remember being called ugly because I had bigger lips and a bigger nose. At the time, kids made it seem like being black was ugly, terrible, and meant I would be unsuccessful. I was told that no one would like me because of what I came from. These comments made me question why I have to be born black, why I have to be put down because of the color of my skin. Every day I wish I could have been anything else but black. After Mr. Martin read the blog post, he stated teachers accommodate to certain behaviors because of their upbringing and are afraid to take the next step. The truth is, Mr. Martin, I did come from a broken family. A family where my mom played both parental roles in my brothers and my life. Mr. Martin's comment about black people's upbringing made my mother so angry and upset. She did her best trying to be our mother and father. She always told us that the world is against us because of the color of our skin. She tried to separate us from the black label and black statistics. She focused on teaching us morals and values in life. Some may think because I didn't come from a stable and happy home that I wouldn't be able to be successful in my life. But here I am, 17 years later, a daughter whose mother successfully runs 4 ISM dental offices between the states of Pennsylvania and Maryland. A sister to brothers who are educated, respectful, and reaching every goal they set at 15 and 11. I'm a product of a mother who never gave up on her kids, who taught us that important values like honesty, respect, responsibility, compassion, and forgiveness. Because of her, I am academically successful and will be attending my dream college at Delaware State University next fall semester. So with that being said, no, Mr. Martin, the blog post does not represent the group that was mentioned in your comment.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Allison Spangler. I'm a graduate of Wilson, the parent of 2 elementary students in the district, and I have taught in Wilson for 15 years. I'm a 6th grade teacher at Wilson Southern Middle School, and I am here to speak in support of our students. As teachers, we not only want our students to know how they are loved and valued, but we also want them to know that we learn from them every day. Our students are using their voices, and we are so proud of them. I am in awe of the student speakers tonight. Our diversity is our strength as a school and as a community. We value each and every child in our building. We, as teachers at Southern Middle School, do not support discrimination against any child based on race, ethnicity, religion, ability, gender, or orientation. Together, with all of our voices, we are a stronger Wilson community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the parent of 2 students in the Wilson School District, and I would just like to thank Dr. Trickett and those on the Wilson School Board who recognize that divisive, inflammatory statements, whether they are one's own words or those of another, whether they were spoken at a recent board meeting or a past board meeting, have no place in this forum or district in our community. And I thank you for the opportunity to say so.
Thank you for your comments. Jada Garber, Sam Martinez, Sindura Sridhar, Mia Worley, and, sorry, the handwriting, something Oji Kutu. Okay, so that's one group, and then after them, Cheryl Raffoff and Bernard McCrae.
Good evening, esteemed board and community members. My name is Jada Garber, and I am here along with
Kemi Ojikutu.
Mia Worley. Sindora Sridhar.
Samantha Martinez.
We are the co-founders and are speaking on behalf of Wilson High School's Stand Together Against Racism Club, otherwise known as STAR. Our club focuses on bringing the values, ideas, and activities of YVC STAR to Wilson. YVC STAR is a service project under the Youth Volunteer Corps of Reading, whose vision is that all members of our community will be consciously aware of social injustices and will have the knowledge and passion to educate others, to stand up to intolerance, to respect differences, and create a community that is welcoming to all.
On behalf of our club and in respect to our club's purpose, we want to use the knowledge we've acquired through STAR to explain to you the impact of the comments made by Mr. Martin at the board meeting on November 7th. We want to make clear that our statement is not meant to be an attack, and we acknowledge you took responsibility for your words, but more so we would like to express what we believe is right, and how such words can be hurtful to students. STAR was created on the foundation of conversation, and we would like to begin that conversation tonight. We believe the comments made at the past board meeting were a stereotypical and racist generalization of Black people. We acknowledge that you were reading someone else's words, but presenting, agreeing with, and then defending those inaccurate words as a member of the school board was a harmful misuse of influence and position. We believe it is inappropriate and unjust to use one's position as a board member to project a grossly generalized point of view to the disadvantage of Black students. Stereotypes easily pave the way for hostility, prejudice, and discrimination against a certain group of people, and putting those stereotypes in the atmosphere of our education does not convey that the best interest of Wilson students is at heart, nor does it make students of color, most of which are students of good character, feel understood and respected by our administration.
Often, when hearing about racial injustice in our club meetings, we find that the basis of racial comments come from assumption, something that our club strives to lessen in our community. But racism and assumption should not go hand in hand. Not all Middle Easterns are violent. Not all Hispanics and Latinos have trouble speaking English, and not all Black people are loud and disruptive to the school environment, and it's unfair and unjust to assume so. Mr. Martin, we kindly ask that you to understand that your racist comments were a blatant assumption that have only set this community's progress and embracing all cultures back. We will be discussing, educating, and listening to all perspectives on the issues of racism in a county-wide YVC STAR meeting on December 8th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. We invite and encourage all board and community members to attend in an effort to understand the impact of racial injustices and learn how to combat them better.
We all need to understand the impact of the derogatory words made at the meeting, and that diversity and acceptance only allows the school community to thrive. It is unfortunate that we still have to address an issue that originated in America in the 17th century. But the least we can do is listen and understand to one another, something that has been lacking in our community since that time. We thank you for taking your time to listen and to understand our perspective.
Thank you.
Cheryl Raffoff, an employee and parent of a teacher. Mr. Martin, I sat with tears in my eyes and a heaviness in my heart as I sat, watched, and listened to you speak at the 11-7 board meeting. I truly couldn't believe what I was hearing. I taught my children from a young age that there are words that hurt and words that heal. And once those words are spoken, good or bad, they can never be taken back. I also taught my children you don't have to be friends with everyone, but being mean and rude and saying hurtful things is and will never be accepted in our house. Sometimes they fell short of those expectations, as we all do. But when they did or said something unacceptable, their first response was a natural response, always to say, "But I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I would respond that that was a start. But in order for your words to have meaning, you need to show me. And you need to show me by your actions and deeds. And Mr. Martin, I believe you need to show us by your actions and deeds.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bernard McCree. I'm the grandfather to 11, 6 who are currently in this district. I will have my first Wilson graduate next year, my grandson, who's a junior here. I was alarmed, incensed, outraged, and quite livid when my grandson came home and told me about this incident. He said, "Pop, what are you going to do?" And quite frankly, I came to set the house on fire. But after I listened again to this vitriol today in my office, I work for Kutztown University, I was even more outraged that someone would take words that were not their own, but when you said them, they became an embodiment of who you are. And you have said, I sat here and I listened to your comments before this body of people, and you said at least 5 times, "I'm not a racist," but sir, that you are a racist. And you can try to cover it up any way you want to. I'm sorry. I do not accept your apology. I demand your resignation. And I can guarantee you that if you do not resign, I will organize, and I thought I had put away my activist shoes, but it looks like I have to get them out again because I will not allow my grandchildren to be dehumanized, and I will not allow the young men who are in this audience, who are black and brown-skinned young men, to be put in a box anymore. I'm tired. I am tired. And if I have to stand before your house, if I have to stand when you come into this building and protest, I will do it if I have to do it by myself. I am not afraid. I have never been afraid. I started protesting my freshman year in college against apartheid. I will not stop now.
1 minute.
Because our children in this district deserve the best. I have lived the school board life. My wife served on the school board for 16 years in Reading. I know what school board life is like. It's difficult. But no one deserves a place at this table if they cannot respect everybody. The person that who inspires me the most, and I live by this credo, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in times of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of controversy and conflict. You have conflicted us. Your time is over. Thank you.
Everyone, please have a seat. Thank you. Okay, next we have, thanks everyone. Christy Viscarello, Stacy Taylor, and Frank DiMartini.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I follow that. I'm not very good at public speaking, so I'll try my best. My name is Christy Viscarello. I am a 6th grade math teacher at West and have been teaching in Wilson for 13 years. I have a daughter who is in kindergarten at Whitfield and another daughter who is in 7th grade at West. Neither my husband or I grew up in this area, but we are bulldogs through and through and stand by all of you with everything we have, and we are proud of you and to be part of this community. Wilson truly is a place where my real kids love to learn, I love to work, and our family loves to live. I would like to make a brief statement on behalf of myself and all of the teachers at West. We as teachers of West Middle School value each and every child in our building and do not support discrimination against any child based on race, ethnicity, religion, gender, ability, or orientation. We want the parents and the students to know we genuinely care, love you, and are here to support you. You are the reason we are here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm Frank DiMartini. Good evening. Man, a lot of students came here, community members prepared to speak. Just as I did, I printed out my notes for reference. Last meeting, Mr. Martin, you came prepared. You printed out your article, you put your binder clip on it. This wasn't a random thought. You found the website, you read it, you decided to print it, then presented it to the board with no context. To his amazement, the board and community was outraged. I looked into the website you referenced and found numerous articles that I would never read because of their racial undertones. To say I didn't know it was racist, excuse the language, is bullshit. Okay. My bigger issue is not only your apology after the fact, but you only apologized for the article. You didn't apologize for bashing LGBTQ members the week prior. Sorry, my daughter's part of that. Excuse me, your willingness to sit with a family and discuss issues, where's your willingness to sit with a family of a transgender student, figure out what they go through? Sorry. Usually I'm much better at this. But I gotta follow that gentleman back there, and it's just hard. When I researched the Wilson School Board, when you start doing some research, usually an article of a member having an issue, it's always you. The mask issue, LGBTQ issues, you fight everything. I'm sick of hearing it every week. So even if you decide not to resign, I don't care. You made an impact on the students. As we saw at their last election, they'll step forward. You'll be voted off. Because as our last board election, when somebody threatens the board, the community will come forward. And we proved that last election. And that gentleman back there, you let me know when, and I'll stand with you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Taylor. I want to say to the students, as some of their teachers have said, I am so very proud of you and what you have done, the vulnerability that you've shown tonight. I had friends like you when I went to Wilson some 30, we won't say, but a few years ago. Having had friends like you, my experiences may have been different, but I commend you and I say congratulations to you for standing up and supporting one another. To Mrs. Coker, school board members, Dr. Trickett, I speak tonight on behalf of the Reading Branch NAACP as its president. The mission of the NAACP is to achieve equity, political rights, and social inclusion by advancing policies and practices that expand human and civil rights eliminate discrimination, and accelerate the well-being, education, and economic security of Black people, of all persons of color. I am saddened and outraged by a school board member reading an article at the most recent school board meeting, an article that demonstrates the prejudice and injustice that continues to persist in our country. Racism and hate have no place in our schools or our society, and reciting such ideas at a school board meeting is an egregious violation of public trust. The NAACP joins the entire community to ensure that we protect the constitutional rights of every person who lives, works, and learns in our community. Each of us, individually and collectively, is responsible for creating and nurturing an anti-racist learning environment where every child is respected and valued for who they are, regardless of their skin color. We must actively acknowledge, address, and prevent racial bias. School board members should be keenly attuned to this facet of our children's education and should be held to the highest standards as leaders of our district. This is a fact. Students of color regularly experience a form of racism in racial violence, white supremacy, hate speech, and bigotry inside and outside of our schools and in their communities. Leaders of the Wilson School District have a responsibility to consider the impact of the words and behaviors on the school community. Their elected public positions demand nothing less. At the November 7th board meeting, reprehensible statements articulated by a school board member, Mike Martin, were repeatedly offensive and racist. By reading an offensive article aloud, he is guilty of spreading untruths, racial bias, and hatred in this public forum. School board members have a role to prevent, not create, a hostile atmosphere. Learning is made more difficult when students feel disrespected and unsafe. Personally, I speak from experience. I was enrolled in Wilson Southern some 40+ years ago. I experienced direct racial hostility to the point where I was bullied and not permitted to take a school bus home. My parents had to come to the school the next day to address the issue. Home alone in the evening to wake up in the morning and see KKK written in the snow. This is what I had to face before I went to school. I would have thought things here at Wilson were better by 2022. What happened last week here is unacceptable conduct, unfitting for any public school, especially Wilson School District, which aspires to serve all students' needs equitably. The racial bias of one individual will continue to cast a shadow on the entire district, its leadership, and the community until this matter is dealt with publicly and promptly. The NAACP demands that the individual board member, Mike Martin, who read this article aloud at the recent public meeting, be publicly censured by the school board and administration. Although it appears he has apologized, his resignation should be requested and when submitted, it should be accepted immediately. The fact that he initially refused to apologize when asked during the meeting itself showed his disrespect and insensitivity for the students and the community. His conduct cannot be allowed to stand without correction and full accountability. No student, parent, teacher, or citizen of Wilson School District should be subjected to divisive rhetoric such as this, now in the institution's public record. These are necessary steps to restore a learning environment that is inclusive to all and supports efforts to foster equity and inclusion at Wilson School District. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Brandy Maurer, Betsy Fick, Rick Crum.
You ready? So I'm going to be the oddball out here, and I'm okay with that because I was never taught to follow the crowd. I support you, Mr. Martin, and I believe the whole situation was taken out of context. And I'm sorry that you're in this position. What I found interesting about the email sent to parents by Trickett is it made it sound as though you yourself made specific comments. I did not hear those. To add to that, All I heard at last week's meeting and email is how hurtful things can be. Welcome to the real world. Wilson is teaching kids that every time something hurts your feelings, we can cause an uproar. Again, that's not the real world. In adulthood, nobody is going to cater to your feelings. Next, what was being done about the petition going around the school? My daughter was approached multiple times to sign it, declined, and was given an attitude on her choice. She said the petition was a distraction in class as everyone was more concerned with that than schoolwork. Everything at Wilson is one-sided. Last year, those supporting masks were allowed to speak up. Those who didn't needed to stay hush-hush. Same here. Those who support the petition had no problem speaking up, but those who support Martin have to stay quiet. I know a few teachers who support Martin but cannot be here in risk of retaliation. We all know the board would eat them alive as they try to do with anyone who disagrees with them. I hope you keep your seat.
Thank you for remembering to not interrupt even if you disagree with the comments.
Good evening. My name is Betsy Fick, and this is my 6th year teaching at Wilson. While I am not a Wilson grad, I am married to one, and I am now the mom of 2 future Bulldogs as we recently moved into the district. I am incredibly proud to be a member of this district, and I just need to say that I am so proud of the eloquence, strength, and poise that our students have shown this evening. You truly are a testament to this district. Tonight, I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues of 2 of the buildings I serve. We, as teachers of Cornwall Terrace and Green Valley Elementary Schools, value each and every child in our building and do not support discrimination against any child based on race, ethnicity, religion, gender, or orientation. We want the parents and students to know that we genuinely care and are here to support you. You are the reason that we are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I am glad to see I am not standing alone tonight. I appreciate the other speaker. I am very disturbed by what I'm seeing tonight. A man who has served his community for years in the Scouts in the school district being labeled a racist and railroaded with what amounts to a trial by mob. I've listened carefully to what Mr. Martin said and what he did not say. Mr. Martin was trying to start a conversation about the responsibility of this board, administrators, and teachers about being more diligent and consistent in applying student discipline. He wanted some honest conversation about whether people felt intimidated and afraid to address it. And what was the response he received? Accusations of racist behavior. Gee, I wonder why anyone might be afraid to broach the subject. There was no objective response about whether he was correct or incorrect in his concern, only a complete shutdown of the conversation about responsibility of the board, administration, and teachers to improve diligence and consistency in student discipline, followed by immediate accusations of racist behavior. Parents are very concerned about students' behavior. It's the elephant in the room. And Mr. Martin is trying to get you to do your jobs to do something about it, and you turn it around on him as being racist? My wife and I were concerned about any inappropriate behavior by students that wasn't confronted when we were kids. Does that make us racist? My wife was concerned about any inappropriate student behavior that weren't confronted when she worked for the district. Does that make her racist? It's only gotten worse. Does that make concerned parents racist? What if a board member did make comments?
Okay, let's take a pause for 1 minute. We don't need any extra comments, please. Let's just take a pause for a minute.
This from the side of tolerance and inclusion.
We are pausing for a minute.
Are we on pause now?
You may continue.
All right. So what if a board member did make comments directed against a specific race? Would you be concerned and take action then? Mrs. Casper made disparaging remarks at a board meeting about whites after January 6th. Say what you will about that day, it had nothing to do with race. So why weren't her comments deemed racist? Her comments were blatantly and unapologetically aimed at whites, and yet there wasn't a hint of outrage by a single one of you. Mr. Martin's comments were not directed at race. They weren't even primarily directed at students. They were directed at this board, administrators, and teachers for inconsistency in confronting inappropriate student behaviors. Racism is very serious and should be stamped out wherever it occurs. but so is the false accusation of racism. It needs to be confronted for the hate speech that it is. Hear Mr. Martin's concern for what it is and work together to address how the district can be more diligent and consistent in addressing student discipline. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We do not need extra comments from the audience. Please remember that we are not commenting, even if we disagree with the comments of the person speaking. Angel Guzman, Kelly Trivio, and Teresa Curran, and Jean McCrae.
My name is Angel Guzman. I worked at Wilson from 2017 till about a couple months ago. The reason I'm here is, excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous. For the past couple of years, I've been watching a lot of the board meetings since 2020, and been wanting to come and speak. I'm a very passionate, emotional type person, and I just didn't think it was wise at that time to come. I can't control and my emotions. But as a man of faith, I would like to share a Bible verse. Conduct yourself with wisdom towards outsiders, making the most of the opportunity. Let your speech always be with grace, as though seasoned with salt, so that you will know how you should respond to each person. Colossians 4, 5, and 6. What brings me here today is because my daughter texted me while I was at work about a board meeting. She knows that I watch board meetings, but I was concerned because she never asked me about a board meeting. And I said, should I be concerned? She's like, somebody said some stuff. So I went to the video, watched it, and, you know, it was disturbing for what I was hearing. Hold on, I'm going to lose my chat. I don't know Mr. Martin, but I think that by you sharing that and then connecting that to disciplinary issues at the school was wrong. And trying to make that correlation was not right. And it doesn't matter that the author was a black man, but trying to connect that article, the problems in our schools, was wrong. You see, the reasons for discipline issues in our schools has nothing to do with the color of our skin. I believe that we are experiencing the result of an epidemic of absent fathers, physically and emotionally. This isn't implying that mothers aren't important. I should know. My mother was left to raise me while my father left and disappeared when I was 6 years old. I love my mom dearly. This is a topic I'm really passionate about. More than 20 million children live in homes without physical presence of a father. Millions more have dads who physically are present and emotionally absent. If it were classified as a disease, fatherlessness would be an epidemic worthy of attention of national emergency. The impact of fatherlessness can be seen in our homes, schools, hospitals, prisons. Fatherlessness is associated with almost every societal ill. During my time at Wilson, I had the privilege of building relationships with nearly 24 students here since 2017, male and female. Nearly every one of them come from troubled homes, fractured relationships with their dads, and at times I felt overwhelmed listening to their stories. See, I grew up poor in Newark, New Jersey, on government assistance with a single parent, mom that didn't speak English, no one making sure I did my homework, at times dysfunction in my home. I failed second grade, I had absent dad, sold drugs for 30 years, incarcerated 3 different times. I was witness to domestic abuse. I struggled in school. I dealt with shame, fear, insecurities, even to this day. Not having my father in my life has scarred me in more ways than I could imagine. Started looking to the world to define what a man is, terrible idea. I was lost, and only by the grace of God I stand here before you. I was not a good husband, struggled at times leading my family well. I was lucky enough to meet a couple men that challenged me to be a good husband, father, and to pursue my daughter's hearts. These men modeled it in their lives. I would like to be a part of assisting you and bridging the gap between the students at Wilson and any way that I can. I hope that you take me up on my offer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kelly Trivick, and I'm here tonight to present a petition. It's a petition I started less than 48 hours ago on change.org. It's a petition that has been signed by 30 seconds ago, 450 Wilson School District residents, people from our community, our students, and it was signed by many of you who are here tonight. Thank you. The petition states, Wilson School District Board member Mike Martin made racist comments at the November 7th, 2022 board meeting. His comments were offensive, inappropriate, and not supportive of the Wilson students and staff. Mr. Martin should resign from the Wilson School Board. Please sign this petition requesting Mr. Martin resign from the Wilson School Board. Show the Wilson students and staff that you support an inclusive community where students are respected as individuals and where racism is not tolerated. On behalf of the 450 people who signed my petition, Mr. Martin, we request your resignation. Here are some comments made on the petition. By Bella Dinatelli. Wilson students and staff deserve a welcoming community and to feel safe and protected. By Paul Russell. Mr. Martin showed a severe lack of judgment in a position that requires good judgment. He is not qualified to hold a position on the school board. By Brian Traggett. I don't believe Mr. Martin understands why this is wrong, and he is unfit to hold a leadership position in education. By Kylie Siders, this is my second favorite. I am a Wilson student, and we deserve better than to be made racist and homophobic comments at. We are kids. And my absolute favorite, by Laura Aguilar. Racism is disgusting. I will present the signatures to the board president at the conclusion of the meeting. I'm also here tonight as a parent and as an individual. I started this petition because I was angry. I was angry about what happened, and I was also angry like Bernard's angry. I don't want to have to be an activist, and I don't want to have to make petitions, and I don't want to have to hold signs. But I will do it if I need to.
One minute.
But one of my personal goals is to be loving and kind, even in the face of hatred and ignorance. So, Mr. Martin, if I bumped into you in the street or in a back alley, I'd probably offer you some of my homemade fig jam. I'd probably try to show you a picture of my cats. We're all neighbors in this community, and we can get along and we can be respectful. Our mistakes should not define us, but we should all be held accountable when we are wrong. An underhanded apology is not sufficient to undo the mistake that Mr. Martin has made and the hurt he has caused. What do we get out of this tonight if he doesn't resign? Every single one of us is here. And this is about us coming together. This is about us doing what we know is right. It's not about him. We are building community. I feel so inspired by the students. Some of you I haven't seen since elementary school. You're amazing. You're going to make the world that we want for you. I thank the board and its members for having us here tonight and the work that you do.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Jeannie McCrae, and I'm a fifth grade teacher at Whitfield Elementary School.
And I'm Teresa Curran. I'm also a fifth grade teacher at Whitfield. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight.
We, as teachers of Whitfield Elementary School, want the community to know that at Whitfield we have always valued, cared for, and supported each and every child in our building and will continue to do so.
We do not support discrimination against any child based on race, religion, gender orientation. Our differences do not divide us.
We are here today to support all students of the Wilson School District and to assure you that you are the reason we are here.
We will continue to stand up against those who try to divide us. To quote Maya Angelou, I have learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but they're not going to forget how you made them feel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly Hauk, Chris Hardy, Wyatt Brooks.
Hi,
Hi, so when I put my name in, I really wasn't sure if I was going to speak, and as I expected, pretty much everyone here said so much of what I would want to say to you anyway. But I was also sitting and getting a bunch of texts from my child who is at home that actually, they're a ninth grader here, and they were ready to come and actually felt unsafe in coming here because they identify as transgender. I've also been getting texts from my recent graduate, Ben, who is at Pitt, who is watching the school board and cheering his friends on. And my oldest, who is at Lehigh, who is also, they're not watching now, but they watched last week's, and we had a long conversation about how impressed we were by Dr. Trickett, by Mrs. Coker, by Dr. Kennedy, and by Mrs. Casper specifically, in the grace and ability they were able to give Mr. Martin an out, a very gracious out, and he chose not to take it, and he chose to double down. And he's done that repetitively over the years, and it's not about him. It's about how he's representing Wilson School District. And he is not living by the mission and the tenets of the district of integrity, innovation, especially integrity, respect, trust, and collaboration, especially collaboration. And he is consistently deflecting blame. And it is not the job of us to educate you. It is your job to listen, as many of you do. And I sincerely appreciate that Mr. Martin has been a voice for what many consider the minority in the district. And I do think that that is an important thing to do. But unfortunately, he has not been able to articulate it in a way that is balanced and open and on a learning curve. And it doesn't represent what we want our students to have and how articulate and amazing you all are. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chris Hardy. I lived in the district now for 3 years. I'm a parent and have one child in the high school and another at Southern Middle School. I serve as a pastor in our community and volunteer as a coach. Mr. Martin, I vehemently condemn your nonsensical, racist comments you made last Monday. At that board meeting, you attempted to hedge your words and state that the article you read weren't your words, that they were someone else's. An author that you admitted to not really knowing who he was, other than he was a black man, whom you chose to use to make your point. At the conclusion of your racist reading, you were called out by other members of the board and superintendent, and I commend them. I commend them for seeing right through your ignorance and calling you out on it. I commend them for keeping their cool and attempting to explain to you the harm that you had just committed. Unfortunately, their words fell on your tone-deaf ears. While those words weren't yours, you chose them to be your words to represent your opinion. You could have used a scholarly article, conducted a local survey, or even read some personal complaints or comments from parents in our district that you may or may not have received to make your point, but you didn't. Shame on you. Shame on you for thinking that we're dumb, and that we wouldn't see through your racism. Shame on you for insulting your fellow board members, the school district, parents, students, and most importantly, shame on you for your derogatory, ignorant, ill-informed comments that harmed our black students. You're not fit to lead or represent this school district. I respectfully ask that you do the right thing, a small token of taking responsibility, and as an act of reconciliation, and you resign your position from Wilson School Board immediately. For the record, my son is white, and he gets in trouble, not because of his skin color, but because he's a kid and learning how to act in the world, just like every other student, regardless of race. Stereotyping people is ridiculous, and along with your racism, has no place in Wilson or in the year 2022.
1 minute.
While I certainly believe in grace and second chances, I also believe in accepting consequences for one's actions. Mr. Martin, in my opinion, you should no longer have a place on this board, a consequence of your racism. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
How you doing? My name is Wyatt Brooks.
Me and my fiance been in the school district now 5 years. Just recently had my oldest son graduated from Wilson High, got one in Southern and in Spring Ridge Elementary. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. When I grew up, I did not like the cops. Couldn't stand them. Now I have a badge. They told me, if you want to be part of the solution, you got to put yourself there. And hearing these kids talk tonight, I had such a different view on the youth growing up. You guys really, truly did touch my heart. I want you guys to know that. I thought we were almost at a loss for the youth. After 14 years in the Army, they say words can't hurt you, but to some people it does, and I had to learn that the hard way too. I would like to address the recent comments made at the Wilson School Board meeting on November 7th. As a minority, I found these comments to be offensive, derogatory, and racist. As a Hispanic black man, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I did sag my pants, but when I was corrected, I put a belt on. When I purchased my first car, I played my music loud. Got many tickets though. And you guys purchased your first car, have fun. I was never offended when someone will offer me advice that will help improve me as a man. And in return, I teach these life lessons to my kids and the others I'm able to touch. The blog read by the Wilson School Board member singled out minority kids in this school district. So you're saying only black and brown kids are in trouble? Does the board feel if anything is done or said, will someone be offended? At no point was there any mention of any other race, just the African Americans and how offended this race could be if something is said. Mr. Martin, the blog you read not only offended me, but my family and this community. What would make you want to read something like that at a school board meeting? Maybe it's how you truly feel, but I don't want to be the one to pass judgment on you.
1 minute.
As had you seemed done with our race and our youth already. While much blame can be pointed to one person, I direct my questions to the school board members as to why this blog was even allowed to be finished. Does the Wilson School Board feel the district has a discipline problem with its youth? While I admire the members who walked out during the reading of Mr. Martin's blog, the question remains, what is the school board talking about behind closed doors to make this member feel so comfortable with reading such a statement? Mr. Martin, do you even care about the students or the residents this could affect? You only called out one race and claimed the blog was written by a person of color. I conducted an academic search and could not find such a piece. Sometimes in life, we say things we often do not mean, but in this case, your stance was clear. At this point, Mr. Martin, a resignation from your position on the Wilson School Board should be immediate. It's clear your values do not align with those of the Wilson School District and the Wilson community and the youth. This is the kind of hate that's destroying our country, and instead of encouraging our youth to be better and stand as one, Mr. Martin, you seem to have different views. If you respect what this community thinks and have the courage to admit your wrongs, then step aside. I thank the board for hearing me.
Thank you for your comments. Richard Hauk, Hernan Delgado, George Williams.
Thank you to the board for the way that you handled this really terrible board meeting last week. What I hope for is that Mr. Martin recognizes that even though he might be able to rationalize what he did, what he said, that there is some damage done, and that his position, as is the position for everybody on the board, is to be leaders and to try to say things that are constructive and productive. I would hope that he would recognize that the time for him to be able to be productive on this board is past, and that the only way that he could actually be helpful in the community, at least in this kind of forum, is if he starts the process of resigning and then trying to show where his true beliefs lie. So takes a long time to build trust, and just an instant to destroy it. And I think that you've done that, some would say many times over, actually. This one is a consequence. This one should have a consequence, as I know that you believe that consequences are due sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Hernan Delgado. I am Latino and American too. I'm a father of Isabela Delgado. She is in Wilson West, and Daniela Delgado. We have 3 years living here in this community in Wilson District. And discrimination is something very sensitive, as we can see tonight, because discrimination starts with D as destruction. Discrimination destroys from inside. And it comes in different ways. For example, in my personal experience, today I was discriminated just because, as you can hear, my English is not perfect, from someone that is supposed to give me one service that I'm paying for. So discrimination is something that destroys. That's terrible. And tonight I would like to start with a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King in his speech, I Have a Dream. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by their character. I have a dream today. This is our hope. This is the faith that I will go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we'll be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to climb up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. End of the quote. My family, that is here in the back, we believe that Dr. Martin, that expressed these comments, he doesn't deserve hate, he as person, but the comments that he expressed is considered inappropriate and unacceptable. And because of that, we believe that he should or he must resign tonight. Hate plus hate is worst because destroys twice. We must continue fighting as a society when this kind of comments or belief or thoughts are expressed, and we must condemn them with all our energy, because we are a society, and especially this, we are a school society. Together as a community, we are stronger. With our differences, we celebrate the diversity of our nation. We must respect, love, and care each other because we are the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello. My name is George. I have 3 children in Wilson School District, 2 in high school, 1 at West. I'm not from this district. I actually moved here in 2015 from Maryland, which is a little bit different. Last year, my youngest son had his step-up ceremony from 5th grade. My parents attended. They drove up from Maryland because that's what grandparents do. And after the ceremony, one of the things that they asked, they said, why were no children of color included in the individual or small groups that did a presentation? It was to the point that my mother actually approached one of the administrators and asked the same question. A little bit of background on my parents: they have over 70 years in education, 40 between them in administration. All that story does is represent that I believe Mr. Martin's views are not the type that can oversee or lead this district when it comes to diversity. And I request respectfully that he resign immediately. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our last group of speakers, Phyllis Logan, Chastity Santiago, and Jennifer Denny. Phyllis Logan. Okay, sorry.
I ain't missing this girl. Hi, I'm Phyllis Logan. As a parent within the district for the past 35-plus years, I find that Mr. Martin's comments were hurtful, inappropriate, and unfair to project on an entire race of individuals. My heart is heavy. I believe that Mr. Martin's comments have ignited a school district-wide issue that needs to be addressed. In order to have diversity, you must be inclusive, for inclusion fosters diversity. In my opinion, we haven't even scratched the surface on what steps we need to take in order to be the change that our students need. If you look at your student body in relation to your faculty, board, and administration, minorities are disproportionately represented in these areas. I believe that Mr. Martin should be removed from the board, but I also believe that his removal is not the ultimate solution, but just a start. We have a lot of work to do in our community and schools because, as you can see, it is not just Mr. Martin, but those in support of his hate, discrimination, and racism is what drives continued division among us. I urge each one of you in this room tonight to not do as Mr. Martin and the minority group of individuals in support of him have done and deflect and make excuses, but unite, stand together, and actively work with each other to gain understanding and acceptance of our individuality. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. I'm a Hispanic mother of a high school student here. I'm also a graduate of Wilson School District, and I am here to show my support for Mr. Martin, a man who has dedicated over 20 years of his life to the children of this community, and to discuss what triggered this outrage. Was it because he was inspired to read an article by a Black author? Maybe. Or was it because he sourced the article from an outlet that is listed as providing a place to unite people and strive to inform, uplift, and inspire a community in every aspect of life? Or maybe it was when, during an equity policy meeting, he had the courage to stand up and tell the rest of the board, you know what? I have a problem with a bunch of white folks sitting around trying to correct something for minorities. Or it could have been when he said, my viewpoint is, I don't care where you're from, what color you are, when you leave second grade, you need to have second grade levels, showing his commitment that all children can succeed.
I'm deeply concerned with the extreme level of social desirability bias displayed by this board and the administration, latching on to specific pieces of an article that they all know would promote a negative reaction and manufacture an outrage in the community. The board president linked the school issues to Black children, not the article. Does this community really feel that a school board that doesn't contain one single member of the Black community is more qualified to speak on such issues than a member of that community? I'm questioning why the board so quickly correlated negativity in a piece written about the Black community. Is it so inconceivable that the author could maybe have a positive intent for that community? So am I to believe the consensus is an article stating don't prove the racist crime stats and profiles right? Is that racist? I have chosen to be in contact with the author, who provided me the following statement to read to all of you. My purpose is to rattle the cage so people realize they are in a cage in the first place and they shouldn't be there. My purpose is to stir up a hornet's nest so people will wake up and and know what they're fighting for, at least know the position they're taking.
1 minute.
My purpose is to poke and prod and hit the nail on the head so people will wake up and think, even if they don't agree with me. Is this community, why are you so outraged by what happened, by him using somebody else's statements? Why aren't you outraged when Casper's statements say subsets of our community can't perform at the same level as others? Or when she said English learners can't be proficient at testing? Or how about when Kennedy used words that would describe residents in those neighborhoods with minimal or no education? Where is the outrage for these actual words, these actual reflections of how this board thinks and feels?
Thank you for your comments. We don't, again, I would request no comments, even if you don't agree with them. Mrs. Denny.
Good evening. Thank you all for sitting here this evening. And Mr. Martin, thank you for sitting here this evening and hearing what has to be said. When I watched the board meeting the other night, I was shocked. I had to pick my mouth up off the ground because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was angry, and I was impressed. I was impressed with this board for how they've handled this, not just that night, in instant moments. To be able to respond so eloquently says so much for Mrs. Cocker and also for Dr. Trickett. And even Dr. Trickett to go to the crux of the matter, which was discipline. Because the whole purpose of this supposedly was to make us think about student discipline, and you were able to respond instantaneously and say, no, this isn't an issue, and here's the facts. And you were in school with me, and you didn't see a phone, you didn't see this. And that is the reality that we're dealing with. If in fact, as that author wrote to that other woman, the purpose of this article is to stir up a bee's nest, well, you've succeeded in doing that, as you can see from all the people who have taken 3 hours out of their life tonight. In looking at what happened to this, I applaud this community for responding pretty much unanimously and with such eloquence and with calmness. The last 2 years, we've seen school boards across the country turn into melees and free-for-alls, and that hasn't happened here. And race is an issue that needs to get addressed in our school, in all schools. It's something that needs to be talked about because of stuff like this. And maybe the positive that will come out of that is we can continue this dialogue. I can tell you the Wilson that I came from a long time ago had fewer students of color in the entire graduating class than I see right here in this student section. And so already our school has progressed in a way that is very positive. But as a leadership, the leadership then has to reflect that. Mr. Martin, you have a fiduciary duty as a board member. You have a duty to represent every single student in here, no matter their race, their religion,
1 minute.
their socioeconomic status, it doesn't matter. You failed in that fiduciary duty. As soon as you read those words, and I cannot believe you did not grasp that they were racist, as soon as you read them, you adopted them, and you presented them, therefore, as your own. And in doing that, you hurt a lot of people. I checked as soon as it was over. I went and read the policies and bylaws, and I even went to the PA law because I thought there has to be a way to address this, and there's not. So you're right. You don't have to resign, but if you don't resign, it is a matter of pride and hubris because you have lost the confidence of our community. You have lost the confidence of the students who depend upon this board for their policies. They don't know that you're going to be able to represent all of their interests because you thought that was an acceptable thing to read. You have lost the confidence of the parents. You have lost the confidence of the teachers. I think I counted at least 15 teachers that stood up and spoke and said, this is not what we believe in. We believe in all children, and we're going to provide education for all children. You spent much of your life with the Scouts. I want you to ask yourself if your comments met the law of the Scouts. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you to everyone for their comments this evening. That is the end of the public participation portion. I would like to lend time to the board for their comments, and I'm going to start with our student rep, Ms. Danny Radash. Oh, I'm sorry, hang on one moment, sorry. Let Danny, then we'll do, yeah, go ahead, Danny.
1 week ago, at the start of the Wilson School Board meeting, I felt so lucky to be a Bulldog. The boys and girls water polo teams were here being recognized for winning their state championships. Then the cast of the Fall High School Musical performed their uplifting opening number. It was an inspiring beginning to the meeting. But sadly, the end of the meeting went into a different direction. I am Danny Radash, and I have the honor of representing my fellow classmates as a student representative to the school board. Last week, I was 10 feet from you when you spewed that hateful article. I was shaking and in tears on the car ride home. I couldn't believe that anyone, let alone a school board member, would share such hurtful comments. We are very fortunate here at Wilson. It is a top school district because of Dr. Trickett and our other excellent administrators, teachers, and school board members that support our students and foster an enriching learning environment. They are moving us forward, but Mr. Martin, you are moving us backward. Differing views on our school board are expected. In fact, they enable critical discussions. You often have a dissenting opinion, and that should be respected, as should your many years to this school board, and we thank you for that. However, as evident by the eloquent comments before me, your opinions were not dissenting, but derogatory. Last week was the harshest in a long pattern of offensive language. In addition, they were said at the very end of a long meeting with no context. This pattern of interjecting random rhetoric with unreferenced articles and statistics is worrisome. As students, we are taught the importance of evaluating credibility of sources and recognizing facts versus opinions. I am inspired by my fellow students for taking an initiative and leadership in unity to rise above the hate. Hundreds of students rushed to sign the student-written petition. Many class lesson plans were put on hold as students asked to process the situation. It is concerning that during your commentary last week, 2 school board members walked out in protest, yet you continued. If you lack the insight to recognize the impact of your words, then you should not be in a position where your vote affects 6,300 Wilson students. If you want the school board to continue to be effective, you would resign. If you are truly sorry for your actions, you would resign. And if you truly care about this community, you would resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, Dr. Trickett, and then I'll read the motion.
First, before I jump into my formal prepared remarks, I just want to speak directly to our kids, specifically the high school students that are here tonight and those that are watching. I just want to let you know how proud I am of each and every one of you. For those that spoke tonight, for those that have been a part of the conversation throughout the last 7 days, your courage, your trust in each other, your compassion, and your just genuine regard for this family, the Wilson family, is moving. And I've been in this organization, and more importantly in this community, for a long time. And I have never been more proud to live here, to work here, and to send my kids to this school. So thank you for all that you do, and for the change that you're creating here in our district. And Danny, I just want to talk to you. Your comments were touching, and again, thank you for that, and just for representing yourself and our student body with grace, class, and courage. This is a tough seat up here, and you do it very, very well, although we're not even a third of the way through the school year. Hard to believe. You provide a voice for our student body and a critical perspective to our board as a whole. You and the students that spoke this evening fully immerse yourselves in all aspects of what it means to be a Bulldog. You engage in our classrooms, walk the halls with your peers, eat lunch with your friends, volunteer in our community, and participate in co- and extracurricular activities together, day in and day out. Our students are the ones who carry out the vision of our school district by engaging in everything that this community has to offer, and your voice does matter. Well, I believe that as a district, we were building positive momentum over the last few months. I'm deeply saddened that the remarks shared at the recent board meetings may have significantly set us back as an entire community. I look forward to the progress. It took the forward progress and brought it to a halt in minutes. Most importantly, my heart breaks for our kids, our students, who spent the last week processing these remarks through their individual lenses, and their families who have had to engage in conversations with their children and friends that they should not have to engage in. I met with many of these students who are hurt and their families who are angry, and I assure you that without any doubt, our community is deeply hurt and we need to heal. The dissatisfaction, pain, and anger people have are feelings that really have disrupted our school system as it's permeated the communications channels, our family gatherings, and social media outlets. This summer, our school board approved a vision statement which states that we're committed to creating a place where students love to learn, staff love to work, and people love to live. And I'm sad to say today, I'm not so sure we're doing that. I would like to again state that we categorically reject the statements made last week as inappropriate, hurtful, and unacceptable, and we are committed to creating a community where everyone feels safe, valued, and appreciated for their unique contributions. Mr. Martin, as we have discussed many times this past week, we must take a step forward this evening to allow our students, families, staff, and surrounding community the opportunity to begin the healing process. Please do the right thing for our Wilson family.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. For 2.1, I'm looking for a motion to approve the resolution that requests resolution of the Board of Directors of the Wilson School District calling for the public censure of Board Member Michael Martin, which shall include opposing Mr. Martin's comments, calling for him to apologize, and making clear the comments were not on behalf of the board, publicly censuring him, removing him as board treasurer and from board committees, requesting he resign from the board, and reaffirming its commitment that all members of the Wilson community shall be free from discrimination. Looking for a motion for 2.1.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second? Kennedy. Dr. Kennedy, thank you. I would like to, if there are any comments, I would like to start at the far end of the table with Mr. Negrini. Thank you.
Thank you, President Cucker. Public service is a public trust. This simple but powerful adage perfectly defines the relationship between an elected official and those who elect them. Public trust, accountability. Public officials are accountable to the public they serve for any and all actions, decisions, and words that impact the well-being of their duties. Public officials must submit themselves to whatever scrutiny is appropriate to their office. Mr. Martin's words, actions, and decisions have clearly eroded the public's trust in him to properly serve the best interests of the Wilson School District. We, as board members, are privileged to serve you, the community, and you, the students. We are good stewards of taxpayer money. We aim to provide a quality educational program to our community and to promote a positive culture where our staff and students are proud to celebrate and return each and every day. We will, and we have, dealt with many controversial issues and topics over the past few years, and those controversial topics will be discussed and voted upon. But we, as the elected officials, should not be the center of controversy. Unfortunately, that has been the case as a result of Mr. Martin's comments last week. We, as school board members, oftentimes are criticized for what we do, but we are rarely thanked for things that we do in a positive way. And it demonstrates, as elected officials, the selfless role that we play in the community. And there is no doubt through the years that Mr. Martin's service to this community has been selfless and has demonstrated goodwill through the years. However, any decision to continue to serve as a member of this board will certainly be deemed by most as a selfish action. And for those reasons, Mr. Martin, as I shared with you last week, I ask that you submit your resignation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. Dr. Kennedy?
At the last board meeting, I offered Mr. Martin a shovel to dig himself out of comments that he made threatening trans families. Instead of taking that shovel and digging himself out, he decided to dig himself in. And whatever I say to him now is clearly not going to make a difference. So I'd like to take this time to thank the faculty, the students, and the administration for their grace and their leadership in this horrible situation. I appreciate teachers giving students a place to process this and to educate students about their First Amendment rights and how their local school district government works. As always, I am in awe of the intelligence, compassion, and resilience of our students. You make me so proud to be part of this district. I encourage you to continue to work together to create an inclusive school community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Mr. Schneider?
Yeah, I feel like any words that I would say are not going to be as eloquent as all of the speakers tonight, particularly the students. Thank you once again for making us proud of you. You did a phenomenal job, but now I'm going to challenge you. I'm a social studies teacher. I teach civics. It's important to get involved when you're outraged. It's the only way to get changed. But I challenge you to stay involved. This is your school. This is the school that you make. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out and being such eloquent young men and women. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider. Mr. Case?
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. This has been a challenging week. And first off, I just want to say this has been a time and a week that maybe last Monday, the students in our community and our teachers and everyone did not feel supported. I feel, and what I've heard throughout this week is that our students have felt more supported by our teachers and our community and our administration than ever before. This is not a celebration today. There's going through and digging deep about forgiveness and trying to figure out and really understand if Mr. Martin should be forgiven, has the capability of being forgiven. And I mean, we have no legal obligation to remove Mr. Martin legally. It is his choice and his choice alone. I want to thank Mr. Martin for being here. This is not easy, to spend hours in front of a community listening and learning, and possibly learning something today. Whether Mr. Martin is on the board at the end of tonight or not, I believe he has the ability to learn something personally in the future. I condemn the premise of his judgment to regurgitate the nonsense that he found online and then pair it with discipline for a particular group of folks. I walked out last week because for my children, for our community, to hear that nonsense, it hurt me personally, as I feel with the loved ones that my family and my children know throughout our school district, our football family, my fifth graders' friends that she continues to support and defend for sometimes racism things that go on in our classroom today. We have a lot of work to do in this country. We do have racism in our school district. We have a lot of work to do. So I'm very proud of everyone that came out and spoke and petitioned and supported each other. But going to, as a board, I feel, and we've listened to Mr. Martin's comments, he's the reason I ran for school board, because I felt Mr. Martin had a voice and everyone else in the community only had 3 minutes. We need to do a lot of work with less personal opinion rants on our board and more school business on our board. I appreciate the diversity that Mr. Martin has brought to this board. I appreciate his finance mind bringing to the board. But last week you lost me. You lost my trust, you lost my faith, and the ability to trust further on as a board member. So I believe this is the appropriate action in censuring. Whether you decide to step down or not is your choice. I would hope you would, but it is your legal choice too. If you don't, please use this time during censuring to learn something, to listen to all the good folks that spoke tonight, and try to honor some of the things that were brought to our attention. So again, I want to thank everyone for being out. We are all not perfect. I myself included, I have overstepped and have apologized, both in public and behind closed doors as a member of this board. I try and become a better person every single day. I think we all have that capability. And Mr. Martin, I hope you do as well, whether you're on this board or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Mrs. Casper?
Thank you, President Cocker. First, I just want to address the students. I am so proud to be sitting here representing you, and I feel your hurt. I feel your pain. I've seen it. You have spoken so eloquently. You've gathered together, united, on a united front, to speak out against this hate, and I am just so proud to be on your behalf here. So thank you for that. So I also want to thank our community, our teachers. I want to thank Dr. Trickett, the entire leadership team for this past week. I'm sure it's been heavy, it's been difficult, it's been sad, we've lost sleep. I want to thank our leadership team. I also want to thank my fellow board members who sit here, and I am proud to sit here with you, alongside you. I first want to make it clear that in no way am I endorsing the hateful and destructive words and rhetoric around this issue. So please do not misconstrue my words when I say that it's easy to blame Mr. Martin as the source of this hate. I know from experience that by simply canceling someone, it does not stop the spread of hate. We can see it every day playing out in our national issues around these highly sensitive topics. We all sit here on this board because we've earned the right through our legitimate electoral process to be here. So in the same way that I may be a voice for members in this community, Mike Martin is too. It was refreshing, to use Mike Martin's words, to hear from our public in opposition to this damaging rhetoric. But the sad truth is that for the past 2+ years, we've been bombarded, attacked as a board and as an administration with divisive and hurtful words and actions. On the November 7th board meeting, Mr. Martin read a racist opinion piece in the context of expressing a grievance regarding what he claimed to be our high school's laxed policies around student discipline. This piece was written from the perspective of a Black person, which the message I received from that was that Mr. Martin felt that if it was written by a Black person, then it would be representative of all Black people. I also felt that this helped to embolden Mr. Martin and legitimate his reading it during a board meeting. There's so much wrong with that. First, Black people or any person of color, we are not interchangeable. Mr. Martin, just because you share a person's racial identity, you cannot assume that you share the same experiences nor the same ideas. Second, if Mr. Martin had done his research, he would have known that Black and brown students face a disproportionate number of disciplinary actions in public schools, and Wilson is not an exception. I know this because the district has been transparent about this data, and we are taking steps within our equity committee and beyond to find solutions to this issue. I stand by my words from November 7th that we must denounce and consistently resist all hateful and harmful speech, regardless of its intention or its source. No matter what tonight's outcome is, we must, as leaders and community members, remain vigilant, as this will not end with the removal or the censure of one person, and we must keep this conversation going. It is in the process of occulting all forms of racism, sexism, transphobia, and all other forms of hate where they actually all live, and they gain the opportunity to reproduce, to grow, and perpetuate their damage in our society. James Baldwin reminds us that to change absolutely anything, we must have the courage to face it, and I saw a lot of courage today. We must face the fact that these isms, racism, sexism, ableism, homophobia, and transphobia, are essential to the culture with which we have inherited and are subtly recreating every single day. They have shaped our communities and life opportunities in ways that we can no longer ignore. I commend our Wilson teachers and administrators who have sat with our students and provoked very important and difficult conversations this past week. We must support our educators in this process,
And this, meaning hate, should never be framed as an opinion or a side to take. That speech is divisive. And folks, this is as local as it gets. I don't think we can communicate better how important it is that we participate in our electoral process. Clearly, what we do and what we say as public officials truly affects the lives of so many people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. Mr. Hart?
Thank you. I want to thank everyone who came out tonight to speak, those that come out for support, those that are watching from home. I just want to remind Mr. Martin that we were voted by the majority of the community to be in these positions. We represent the majority of the community. The community that voted you in is asking for your resignation. And I too, Mr. Martin, ask for your resignation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Mr. Martin, I thought we would save your comment, if you have one, to the end, if that's okay, to move on to Mr. McCray.
Before I begin my prepared remarks, I would like to acknowledge the sacrifice being made by the Wilson Theater Company, who have given up their performance space with only 3 days to go before their Frog and Toad show this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. While I'm sure that this group of highly talented students will follow through on the theater mantra of the show must go on, if any of you out there want to do something positive for Wilson and our students, please come out to this show Thursday and Friday at 7 or Saturday at 2 and show your support. With that said, first of all, thank you. Thank you to all of you for speaking and showing up tonight. Thank you for being open, honest, and engaged, and speaking so much eloquently than I ever will. Ever since last Monday night, I knew that I would want to speak as well on what transpired and share, like many of you, how I was angry, mad, sad, embarrassed, and a myriad of other emotions. And I struggled for a good couple of days about how to put that into words. As anyone who's attended or watched one of these meetings knows, I'm not the most talkative person on this board, and I never tried to be. But often when I do share my thoughts, it's through the lens of my 2 daughters who are students here. After all, they are the whole reason that I'm sitting here. And I'm so thankful for the amazing and diverse friendships, opportunities, and just overall unique growth experiences that honestly began day one when they entered their kindergarten classrooms here at Wilson. So there I was this past Wednesday night, sitting in this very auditorium for our high school band and orchestra concert, with many of these frustrating emotions and thoughts still swirling through my head. Then I found myself looking at who was on stage, who was directing, who was in the audience. And I realized I wanted to share more than just all of those negative emotions that were building up inside of me, because while they're all 100% justified and 100% appropriate in this situation, that is not Wilson. What was on this stage on Wednesday night and in this auditorium was a diverse group of students, educators, support staff, parents, and families supporting each other in their endeavors. Students and individuals who are not defined or grouped by skin color, socioeconomic status, height, weight, gender, whatever. They were all working together to make beautiful music, both literally and figuratively. And that reminded me that events like this, with our diverse and amazingly talented student body, are happening every single day at Wilson. Just within this past week, things like state playoff games in field hockey and volleyball, elementary school discovery groups, math teams, and recess games, groups of STEM students performing integrated science experiments and building multifaceted models, the Bulldog cheer competition held in our gymnasium this past weekend, The theater company is spending long evenings preparing for their performance in this space for this coming weekend. All of those groups and so many more combine successful students, teachers, coaches, and mentors from more different backgrounds and experiences than we can fathom. But they go out and perform and learn and execute, and they succeed each and every day at Wilson. And then guess what? They'll come back and do it all over again tomorrow. And what do all of those events and the hundreds of other moments and experiences like them that happen across our classrooms and fields and stages each and every day show to me, and hopefully to all of you listening to this? They show that Wilson is so much better than what happened last Monday night. So let me say it again and make it abundantly clear. Wilson is not last Monday night. And if for some reason anyone out there thinks we are, then you truly haven't experienced those events or been in our schools or interacted with our staff and teachers and most vitally our children. And if you somehow think that last Monday night was Wilson, then you do not know them. And you most certainly do not and should not represent them. Instead, the great thing is that all of you are here, and all of those in our buildings and in our community, you all go out each and every day and you prove it. You prove that those comments from last Monday night are not Wilson, that we are so much better than that. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud to represent you. I know the other 7 board members up with me are proud of this student body, this staff, and this community. All of you do better each and every day. Keep doing it. Keep being positive. Keep achieving. Keep growing. Keep teaching. Keep learning. Keep succeeding. Because we are bulldog proud of you. And that is what Wilson is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCray. Mr. Martin, if you would like to have a comment period.
Well, obviously, it was really great to hear from everybody. I mean, the students did an outstanding job. I've listened to the students. I listened to a lot of the folks here. And I think overall, I think I can't really say I'm processing a lot of the information. But I do respect everybody's opinions. I do respect everybody in this particular room. And just thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Just some final words, that we care about all students. I think that the public and the amount of communication that we received, whether personally from people we know in the community, through the large amount of emails that we received, and for the public participation this evening, we care about every single student in this district. And with this resolution, we're stating that we as a public school district, which is the heart of our community, is for everyone, period. Every single student, every single family, I don't care what you look like, who you love, we are here for you, and we are going to work harder to make this a good community and a good school district for everyone to feel welcome. And I appreciate everyone that spoke tonight. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Abstain.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstain.
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Meeting adjourned.